And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. It looks like some technical difficulties coming into
You
play.
you got load shedded.
I've had a little bit of a effect of load shedding, but we are back for the Grid Championship. And let's see how it's all going to work out. So, gentlemen, take us through the current point standings for the championship at the moment.
Well, let's quickly have a look. Out in front, Philip Minnaar. You know, he is at this stage quite comfortably out in front at 143 points, followed by Daniel Rowe in second place on 93, but not far behind him, Cody Sherritt on Daniel Rowe on 96, Cody Sherritt on 93, Brego Grobler on 91, and then Yelof on 86. So there's kind of an interesting battle developing for second place. Second place, we've got 4 drivers, separated by less than 10 points. I think things are going to start hotting up in the second half of the season. They're going to set their sights on Philip Minnaar, try and chase that lead down and maybe dethrone him from first position in the championship currently.
It's going to be an interesting one, especially that we've gotten so close to the end. You now got to think about the long game instead of the short game. You can't think about just racing your mate. You've got to try and figure out what's going to be better for the championship.
I mean, absolutely. As you mentioned there, racing your mate, we've got a couple of teammates also there very closely together. So it's all about maximizing not only team championship points, but individual championship points. And Steve, as this championship draws to a close, I don't know, it's going to get interesting. Who are you going to pick to take the fight out in front to Philip Minnaar?
I'm not 100% sure who's going to be able to do it. We've seen some phenomenal pace, and let's take a look at the track that we're on this evening, the Indianapolis, and it's not the 500 this time. So, gentlemen, take us through Indianapolis.
Well, round 4, not round 3, as that preview says. Coming down this pit straight, turn 1, the track narrows up quite significantly. Got to watch out for your brake marker. Hit round about that 400 feet board. Get the car swung in. Don't take too much of that inside curb. It will unsettle the car. Get through this left hand and now this right hand and let the car start drifting out to the left hand side. Slight touch of the brakes. Get that nose swung in. And now you're going to try and run this car flat out through this section. Position it roundabout in the middle of the track. Let the nose drift out wide. Double apex corner. Get it in for the second apex. Keep to the left. And now through this right-hander. Get the power on. Nice and early. You see the back end stepping out there a little bit. This back stretch, or call it the back straight. You're going to watch out for the third board on the right-hand side. Hit the brakes. Now, don't take too much of that curb as it will unsettle the cars. You see it at the rear end stepping out again. The S's. This is a never-ending section where you have to wait to get on the power. Take the curb on the right-hand side and try and get on that power nice and early. Now comes a very tricky section. You go flat out through here. You need to hit your brake marker. Watch out for the board on the left-hand side. Kind of a blind entry. Don't take too much of the curb as he does there. Get the car position to the right-hand side. The Porsche getting all lively through this section using the rear steer functionality. Christian Fenton not hanging back. Now it's flat out back onto the oval section and across the line for a lap of Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, always a tricky circuit and home to the Indy 500, and also track that's has got a great number going for it. It's got a huge legacy, but it's also infamous for how it goes and hurts tires. Now, this is something we've got to all consider because we've got an hour and 20-minute race. But let's take a look at who's where and what's happening at the moment. Philip Minnaar currently in first place with Cody Sherritt trying to chase him down. Macfin and Merva in third. Sanjin Pillay in fourth. Tian Elof in fifth. Sixth place, Ryan Ottens. Daniel Rowe in 7th, 8th place, Christian Deploy, Brandon Kruger in 9th, Nicholas Manuel in 10th, 11th is Essie Esterhaus, who's actually just dropped down to 12th because Grant Sebastian decided to get a little bit more involved. and makes his way up. Henry Mayer down into 14th. Johan Kleinans actually dropping down. Morgan McCall getting the jump on him. Good to see Morgan back in. We've been seeing him in and out through the season. Unfortunately, load shedding has been a difficult one for a lot of these drivers as they look to try and improve their racing here today.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You spoke about load shedding, Stephen, and it's something we've also, kind of have a lot of experience on over the last couple of days, and it's something we've spoken about quite a lot. You can run all the backup systems in the world, but it does seem like this load shedding is starting to affect internet stability, the fiber connection, those type of things. Unfortunately, Morgan McCall coming back to him last night, started the race. He suffered a disconnect and veer off into the grass and the stands and took off for flight, so to say. But Morgan currently sitting in 17th position. Stephen, I don't know, it does seem like he has been struggling a little bit this season with the car. But we have seen in previous seasons Morgan coming, back quite strongly through the latter parts of the season. After tonight, we're halfway through, so looking forward to what he can dish up in the second half of the season. Currently, Cody Sherritt, second place. He's sitting in third place in the championship. Ryan Otten's in third. Both of them within 0.2 of a second of Philip Minnaar. So definitely at this stage, with just over 6 minutes left in qualifying, things are starting to get close out in front.
It's getting into some exciting times, and 134 being the quickest set by this man over here, Philip Minnaar. Cody Sherritt trying to chase him down. So Philip Minnaar doing a 134.4, Cody Sherritt 134.607, Ryan Otten's 134.640. And I mean, we just bring up the timetable right in front of us, and you can actually start seeing how close the times are to one another in each of the deltas and how hard each of the drivers are pushing. So I don't know how it's all going to work out. We saw Ryan Otten's last night with the Raceface GT3 Sprint Series go and walk away, but it looks like this time he's got a bit more of a challenge. Keep an eye, though, on Sanjan Pillay. He was also making some great moves in and out in the previous race, has been tinkering on the car from the likes of Watkins Glen all the way into Indianapolis. And, well, I've expect some very interesting racing coming forward. And also, the qualifying is giving enough of a time for the drivers to get their eye into what's happening, what do they need to do, and what the tire wear is going to start working out as. Because this is one thing about Indianapolis. You have got great changes in camber for every single one of these cars. Doesn't matter what you've got, whether it's mid-engine, whether it's front engine, you're going to have to deal with some serious camber changes. You're going to be nailing the curbs as hard as you can. That's also going and wearing down the tires. It's putting flat spots. It's also lightening up the steering wheel underneath you. You're getting on the power. You can also flat spot your own tires and land up with some more issues. Secondly to that, also your brakes. You've got to think about it because you're using it a little bit more. You're standing on the brakes as hard as you can. And that can all play into effect of getting too hot and you start having brake fade towards the latter part of the race.
Absolutely, but just something I want to mention, and that was the impression I got last night. As we see a little bit of battling going on in qualifying out on track, trying to get those last lap times in. Stephen, last night's race, it did very much look like to me that during the beginning of the race, the first 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes of the race, the mid-engine cars definitely had the upper hand. But as the race progressed, the front-engine cars started coming back. And it almost seemed like during the last 10 minutes or so of last night's race, the mid-engine cars really started struggling, with stability, especially rear end. We saw a couple of Porsches last night getting all sorts of lively. So what's race strategy going to be in terms of tires? It's going to be a race of two halves, as we've seen. Guys going for that 40-minute mark, get in, change tires. Or are we going to see some of the front-engine cars maybe running a little bit longer on their tires than that?
Well, I'm going to go and throw in a different idea. And I think...
Please do.
I think...
You never agree with me anyway, so...
Well, that's why we can do racing together. We can argue about it as much as we want and also wreck each other's tires before we go out.
Absolutely.
I want to actually talk about Jan Kleinans is one of the guys that has constantly chatted to us and has tried some interesting maneuvers. And one of the things he tried last race was to put a fraction earlier than everyone else. Didn't quite work at the likes of Watkins Glen. I do think it's going to work at Indy. Hear me out. I know for everyone that's busy thinking, why do I think this? Reason is, you're putting more and more strain on the car. Soon as you start getting into a group and you're starting to try and figure out what another person's braking markers are, you have more chance of losing out and going barreling off into the grass, and especially through turn 1, turn 4. There's lots of where you can land up with some serious issues. So I think an early first pit stop would be a good idea to let the field move away from you, start concentrating on your own pace, start concentrating on your own brake markers. Second pit stop, soon as life gets a little bit busier, you're going to have to hop out, get into the pits. That would be a refuel window. I would take tires towards the end and refuel at the start, just to try and allow a bit of spacing between myself and the competitors to ensure that I can focus on my own lines and I'm not trying to brake too hard to avoid or try and move up a position. Start thinking about what your pit stops are going to do for you instead of your outright pace. That's my mentality to this circuit due to the nature of the circuit.
So you're taking my strategy.
Well, little bit, but
I think a lot of people know, or those that know, I like the early pit stops, getting myself out in that clear air. Yes, there is a certain amount of risk involved that other people will also that other people will also follow a similar strategy, but I love getting in early, getting in that clear air and start focusing on my consistency rather than having to battle guys around me in the early parts. And it's not that I don't want to battle cars out on track, don't get me wrong. It's just that mentality of I can run a quicker pace out on my own than what I can do in a pack. And that might help me out later out in the race. And that's how I sometimes make up a lot of position in these hour and 20 minutes or hour and 30-minute races that I run also.
Well, if you look at it from an Indy 500 perspective, the Indy 500, everyone keeps within a pack. Everyone's following one another. There's no radical moves to try and get past someone. It's all down to the best pit stop strategy to get in and out of the pits. That is my mentality. It's going to be fuel first, burn enough that you get enough of a gap in your tank that you can run it out towards the end. When tires start getting slick, when everyone's fuel starts running a bit lower, just get onto those new brand of slicks and start hammering in those quality times. As we take a look at Philip Minnaar, he's trying to better his quality time, 134.2, hard onto the brakes, really slinging the car through, hoping to try and keep it all together. And I don't think anyone's going to dethrone him because Cody Sherritt's in the pits, he's in second place, Ryan Otten's in third. Henry Mayer's 0.3 of a second down. He pulls out. He decides enough is enough. Tian Elof in fifth. Sixth place is Mac van der Merwe, Bago Krobler, Sujin Pillay, Morgan McCall, Brandon Kruger, Daniel Rowe, Christian Deploy as making his way through. S.E. Esterhaus, Grant Sebastian, Nicholas Manuel, Peter Meyer, Justin Lotus, Cameron DeBastos, Johan Kleinans, who's probably on his phone at the moment.
That's why I'm laughing. He already sent the first message, and I just had a little bit of a giggle. I'll get to his message now.
It's fine. Andre Serradio, Loic Randable, actually dropping out. Charles Snur is coming by. Nice to see a new name coming into the racing. So,
absolutely. Having a look quickly, Jan Kleinans, our local chatter, says, "Lekker guys, thoughts and prayers to everyone's tires." That's why I had a little bit of a giggle there. He's definitely taking note that tires might be a little bit of an issue tonight.
I think it's going to be a big issue for a lot of drivers. And out on Twitch, we cannot forget about our Medal State fans actually doing the best there is and putting a slice of pizza up, because pizza's life. Unless you put pineapple on a pizza, that's heresy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And we've also got Mr. Luke Addison joining us in the chat, saying, surprised not to see Sanjan Pillay higher up. Yes, Sanjan Pillay currently 8th position. Stephen, we have seen him, especially last night, duking it out in front for the top 3 positions. But tonight out in 8th starting position. But look, it's a long race. Anything can happen in the next hour and 20 minutes, as we've got just left before the start of this race. Remember, tonight, short formation lap, couple of corners, and then we go off racing, Stephen.
It's going to be an exciting one, I do think. And the guys are going to have to build up a lot of heat into those tires, a lot of heat into those brakes before they head into turn 1. And it's going to be go in gingerly. And I know Luke Addison is going to be informing people as well. Luke is a very well-established sim racer that knows the dangers of the circuit, and I think can agree with us. You're going to have to go in gingerly. You're going to have to go in with the mentality of, listen, we've got to focus on just getting to the end, getting to the corner, and not really get to any issues. Guys, 20 seconds before the race start, dropping the cars down just to try and maintain as much heat into those tires as possible and not let them dissipate. But Philip Minot, Cody Sherritt once again squaring off. We saw these two have an absolute battle last race. Let's see if it's all going to happen again right here at Indianapolis for round number 4 of the Metal State Grid Championship, brought to you by Metal State and Raceface. Big thank you to all our associated sponsors as well. But now we're heading off to the moneymaker. 70 kilometers an hour. Warm up those brakes, warm up those tires, and as a couple of guys in the chat have said, biggity, 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 let's go racing. Going to be jumping in and having a bit of fun. As our drivers...
You're starting to get excited, Stephen.
I've got to. You know, I've already missed the ladies and gentlemen, start your engines, but they had them started a long time before that. But I'm very interested. Cody Sherritt going to be battling it out. He's got the outside line. Ryan Ottens is going to try and sneak his way through. Henry Mayer as well. Tian Elof is looking to try and support his teammate up in first place, with Mac van der Merwe lining up behind him. Bego Krobler is a little bit away from his teammate. Let's see how it's all going to work out when they come across the line, putting the power down. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready for the roar of the engines as the GT3s line up and start accelerating for round number 4 of the Grid Championship. And it does look like Philip Minot off to a great start, keeping a very tight inside line. Couple of the cars all moving around, just trying to jostle for position. Now it's going to be who's later on the brakes. And it looks like Mac van der Merwe trying to move his way up. Cody Sherritt trying to go around the outside. And does so. Oh, Philip Minot gets tagged and comes back into Ryan Ottens. He's able to straighten out, but that's going to drop him way down the field. Mac van der Merwe into second place, now trying to hold off Ryan Ottens. Brandon Kruger also looking to try and get involved. Bego Krobler giving a slight nudge, saying, listen, bud, we got to get going. We need to try and put as much pressure as possible. Tian Elof as well, all over the back of him, trying to hunt down that inside line. But you can see tires are absolutely frigid on these cars as they squirrel around the circuit, trying to find whatever grip is possible around Indianapolis. A lot of people describe the circuit as driving on an ice rink at the best of times, and now they are doing it all for the start. And a couple of the cars landing up, getting pushed off a little bit towards the weeds. Philip Minot having a rough time. He's down into 10th place. Peter Meyer managing to get by. Essie Esterhaus chasing Daniel Rowe down. Daniel Rowe keeping an eye on Elof, who's just ahead. Now seeing his teammates has dropped way down the order. He needs to push as hard as he can on Bego Krobler. Ryan Ottens going after Mac van der Merwe and not holding back up on the inside. Trying to force Mac to go around the outside. Does a very neat pass. Very close to one another. But this is the caliber of drivers we're dealing with. Brandon Kruger's got the run up, though, into the toe, pulling himself along. You can see Ryan Ottens trying to hold that inside line, tuck himself close to the wall, moves to the outside. And Brandon Kruger doing what he can. Mac van der Merwe going and launching by. And Otten's having to try and defend the Audi, doing what he can to try and get the drive. Goes off into the dirt. Brandon Kruger just not able to get ahead. Bego Krobler, though, in a battle. Tian Ilov trying to go around the outside, and it does look like Daniel Rowe is looking to get involved, seeing his teammate just ahead of him, hoping to put a little bit more pressure onto the drivers, but off to a really wild start, might I say.
And absolutely. And while these, Ottens, Van der Merwe, Kruger, Grobler, Elof, Rowe, everybody's keeping each other busy, Cody Sherrod has opened up a 2.6 second lead out in front. So he's taking full advantage of these battles going out on track currently. As we have a look at Mick van der Merwe, and now over to Tion Elof. He's got Bego, Grobler, and Daniel Rowe for company. It's even not exactly the two guys behind me that I would want to go racing, because as we all know, Bego and Daniel Rowe, they don't hold back. They're going to give it their everything. As we see Essie Estrazer, he's decided to get a little bit of the action and join that little battle and get between Daniel Rowe and his teammate. As we see Bego running off to the inside of the track. Wonder what happened there.
I think he completely outbraked himself, and instead of landing up with the issue, took the easy route out and not to get involved. And just taking a look, Cameron De Bastos is actually dropping way down the order, and let's see actually what happened to the Ferrari as he makes his way around. I think he might have just clipped the dirt and just got a little bit too much rotation underneath him. There's Morgan McCall, Charles just ahead of him as well as they come through. And it's all looking pretty clear at the moment. Up on the inside, and that's contact with Morgan McCall. Bails off into the dirt, and I think he kept his foot rightfully planted on the throttle just to bail out the way. But Morgan getting a little bit of a punt in the side and carrying on his way. Thankfully, the Mercedes not too affected at this point, but not quite the race that the cars wanted to be dealing with. A bit of dings early on into the race, and all that comes into play when it comes to tires getting hurt, because you have to deal with aero damage and how that affects your car. Charles Snow just ahead of Christian Deploy. Sergeant Pillay trying to go up on the inside of Christian, couldn't make it stick, and now really trying to make it as they claw their way through the field. This is a little bit down and from the order, but chasing down, there's Morgan McCall. Jan Kleinans just ahead. He's going after Grant Sebastian, and Philip Minnar, who's also doing everything he can to try and pull himself back through the field up on the inside of the likes of Peter Minnar. Peter not backing down, though, and what on... Just opting to get into the pits. Maybe that earlier stop we were talking about to just try and keep things a little bit more, get out of the traffic, burn just enough fuel.
I think that strategy. I think Minnar realized he's getting held up way too much, as we actually see a lot of cars pitting. Stephen, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 7 or 8 cars in the pits. So very busy in the pits this early on, and that's one of the risks of taking that early pit stop. A lot of people might do exactly the same as what you're doing, and then you land yourself up in traffic again. As we see Christian Deploy, one of the 80k drivers, Sanjan Pillay, Nkube, Lotus, Randabol, Barcase, and Meyer, all of them currently in the pits.
Oh, Charles venturing off into the distance and actually coming back on circuit. And let's take a look at what exactly happened, whether the car just over-rotated, because they got into a beautiful four-way battle, but the car just came out from underneath him, went up on the inside of Sebastian, and narrowly missing the front, getting close to the dirt, though, onto the marbles, and the Honda just deciding it's going to over-rotate, manages to bring it back, and unfortunately lands up in the smack bang in the middle of the circuit. That's going to be hurting his... It's going to be hurting his race, and also his tires are now going to be crying for a bit of TLC.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think those tires overheated. So what will happen now is he will have to take it, just a little bit easy for the next lap or so and get those tires cooled down. As we see a lot of dust kicked up there as Serradio goes through that section onto the pit straight. Lovely looking Mercedes. He's trying to get into the slipstream of Grant Sebastian in front of him, but I think just too far back at this stage. to make really an impact, and he will have to try and fight his way closer to that BMW to try and get past Grant Sebastian with Kleinos just in front of him. And Stephen Kleinos has got a little bit quiet on the chat. I think he might be a little bit busy at the moment.
I think he is. Sanjan Pillay going after Nkube. And just taking a look over at Middle State, Larissa Hawk going and talking about some real fighting words, adding pineapple on a pizza. That's some fighting words there. That's how you start World War III.
Pineapple on a pizza, okay.
That's how you start World War III. You put pineapple on a pizza.
I do not agree with that statement. According to me, pineapple's got no place on a pizza. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, no, pineapples grow in trees. They don't belong on pizzas. But take a look. Sanjan going after Tini Nkube and really giving a bit of a push there. Nkube trying to bait him into a move, middle of the circuit. That's going to compromise Nkube's drive out, and Sanjan also trying his best to move around. But Nkube, a very defensive move, but also a move that goes and it messes up your corner entry because you're now having to brake and try and get yourself right. You're not taking too much of a tight line. You're taking more of a bit more open, but it's not 100% on the right line. It's a very, very difficult way. And, it's one of these circuits that I don't think sitting smack bang in the middle of the circuit, going into the tighter corners is the better option. I think you have to pick one or the other to gear yourself up to go for it. But he's managed to hold it. And Sanjan's really focusing on the charge now to try and claw his way through. But as you pointed out, a couple of cars have pitted. Christian Deploy's already done his mandatory pit stop. He's in 16th place at the moment. So some good moves being made early on in the race.
16th and in clear air. So I think that was, good call on his part. Where the other guys behind him, Sanjan, Barkhuis and Minor, little bit of less clear air run, so it didn't help them out as much as it helped Christian deploy out. I think he put it at just the right time to get that clear air, and now, as we see him going past, he's got quite a bit of a gap behind him. So at this stage, I won't say he's not under pressure, but definitely under a lot less pressure than Nkube. As we see Sanjan looking down on the inside, I think that was more of trying to pushing Nkube into a little bit of a mistake, push him offline and taking advantage of that. But Nkube actually having none of it, and Pillay now falling back into the clutches of Barkhuizen. So Pillay now under a little bit of pressure from Barkhuizen behind him.
Absolutely. Absolutely incredible stuff. And this is the to and fro that you've got to be so careful of with all the racing. If what can actually happen. And Sanjan, who's really focusing on the charge, trying to claw his way through. With Nkube, who's really put that BMW in just the most awkward of positions and, just forcing him completely offline. That's allowed Bernard Barkhuizen to say, well, thank you, I'll come on by. And Philip Minard to join. But, I've always talked about utilizing all the circuits. It doesn't mean you have to utilize where your marshals usually stand as well, and make life rather interesting. But Barkhuizen saying, thank you very much, I'll get involved in this battle, trying to go late on the brakes, and Nkube dropping down. Sanjan tried to follow through, couldn't make it happen. Slight contact between all the cars. Philip Minard getting involved, he wants to try and do what he can, and Sanjan right up on the inside, both leaning on one another.
And Nkube running wide, he's going to lose a lot of drive there as they come down this pit straight. But man, oh man, Stephen, sorry to interrupt. What a battle have we got going on here. As you see Nkube having a look there on the inside, but behind him, Minor, he's having none of that. He's also having a look on the inside and pushing Nkube wide again.
Absolutely giving it everything he's got to
giving
keep
it the
going.
beans.
Giving it the beans. And, well, it's absolutely tremendous stuff. And, I know Alan Patterson, who's keeping an eye on his former teammate, who's been cruising up, the now international driver going and representing South Africa, old Cody Sherritt, but also keeping an eye on the action that he usually races with as well. So he's used to racing with the grid. He knows how these drivers are able to push the boundaries and really focus on the hard charge. So it's absolutely incredible stuff. And, This is the type of action that we've come to expect from the Grid Championship.
Just
It's
one
incredible
thing
stuff.
I want to touch on.
Yes.
Stephen, how is the quality of driving that we've seen tonight? I mean, we see these guys go side by side through turn one. That I don't think a lot of viewers realize how narrow it gets into that turn one and through this section that they're going through now. I mean, no contact going side by side through these sections. That says something about the quality of the drivers we've got in this Pro Division.
Well, this is it. The Pro Division really showing off what they can do and really putting on a great performance. I take my hat off to it. Not the easiest run, but when you talk about racing for position, you think about how hard you have to go to really claw your way through. Philip Minnaar, who started in pole position, who was the quickest, now having to battle it out. Andre Serradio managing to get in and out of the pits and dropping his way through the field. But here's your fastest qualifier who's not having an easy run. All the drivers are fighting for position. They are fighting for this championship. They want to make it stick. As we head up the field, Brandon Kruger and Mac van der Merwe are going at one another. But even you go down, Grant Sebastian and Johan Kleinans going and they slugging it out. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how fast you are. It's about getting past the competition. You have to try and outsmart the competition. You have to try and think and trust that your setup is going to work. Otherwise, well, you're about to visit the grandstands, go order a hot dog, maybe a jumbo-sized cool drink as well. If you go a little bit further, you might get to the sports arena and go watch some football if you really get it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen all sorts of getting wrong on this Indianapolis track. It's even just one guy I want to, keep an eye on. I'm going to keep an eye on him here on the side screen, and that is Christian Deploy. He's still currently running in very much clear air, so to put it. So currently he's in 15th position, first of all the people that have made their pit stops. Running in clear air, I think he is, with especially the rest of the field having a close battle like that, he's somebody to keep an eye on maybe in the latter parts, second half of this race, and I think he might be able to make up a couple of positions, whereas somebody like Philip Minnaar in 18th position, as they've also mentioned, Alan mentioned on the chat as well, Philip getting held up quite badly. So I think Christian is in for a good one tonight if he can keep this pace going.
Well, I'm gonna use a bit of Alan royalties here and just quote Alan on something. SES House actually going backwards before I say it. But what on earth happened to Essie? Did the Honda snap underneath him onto the marbles? Now heading into turn one. This is about 20 seconds from where we saw him parked.
Might he have taken too much of that inside curb and the Honda just upsetting itself as we see him having a look on the outside? Oh, contact.
There's contact, and I think that was contact with Mayer, who landed up with a problem, and one of the other Hondas going and giving him a slight tap on the rear. I think trying to make his way through. But to quote Alan Patterson of PWSR, and one of his more famous quotes, if you talk about Christian Deploy at the moment, he is in a net first place.
I would certainly, I won't go as far as to say net first place because, at this stage, Cody Sherritt out in front, 3.3 seconds, 3.5 seconds now in front of Ryan Ottens in second position. I think Cody has not quite checked out yet, but with Christian running in clear air, I mentioned it before, watch out for him. I think he might come back strongly and let's see, maybe top three. Don't want to do a commentator's curse.
It's going to be an exciting one right to the end. And just taking a look, a lot of the guys like Christian Deploy, Bernard Barkhuizen, Sanjin Pillay, who is chasing down Bernard, all have taken fuel on board. They've just done fuel. If you look at Christian Deploy, 9.1 seconds in the box. Bernard Barkhuizen, 8.1. Sanjin Pillay, 8.5. Philip Minnaar This tells me he filled the tank up a little bit more because he's got
Might have
7.
started lights in the beginning of the race.
I think so, and he's put 17. He was stopped for 17.7. So that's not enough time for fuel, but it's for tires, but it's enough time to. Oh, as we see, that's a Kube and Justin Lotus coming together. It looks like they outbraked one another. Let's jump onto a helmet cam and see what exactly happened. There's Justin Lotus behind Ikube, really pushing as hard as he can, hoping, just maybe, will he be able to keep going as they slug their way through, really pushing hard.
It's an outbreak. Outbraked himself. But it's even easy mistake to make. He was on the inside, and I think he was a bit blindsided by that brake marker. I think he just, because through that section, your brake marker is not a traditional board on the side of a track. It's actually a board on the fence. And I think it's very easy to miss that brake marker and then just outbrake yourself. And unfortunately, the car understeered into the right-hand side door of Tinian Kube.
No, it's just frightening stuff of how quickly you can make it go wrong, and what little you actually have to do to make it go wrong. Tian Elof still focusing on Daniel Rowe though, and like Grant Sebastian and Kleinans, they are focusing on a hard charge with one another. This is where I want to ask, are you pacing yourself with your competition? Are you racing your competition? And how much is it affecting your race? I know we can't quite ask Kleinans right now, even though he would love to be reaching for his phone. I think his hands are a little bit tied at the moment. But Philip Minnaar, who is in this bunch battle, who is trying to fight his way through, after having a bit of a rough time, now needing to try and get back into the higher positions, get at the moment in 18th place. He is out of the standings.
Morgan went into the pits for his pit stop, and I think that was speeding in the pits. Morgan McCall, stop, go, 30-second penalty. Oh, that's effectively, Stephen, an extra pit stop that you need to make.
Oh, it's not what you want to have, and I think it's just coming onto the anchors. The pit lane is very, very tricky. It's around a right-hand bend. You're going in quite fast, and you have to slam onto that pit limiter as hard as you can and bring it down from what you're usually sitting at about 110 kilometers an hour, and you've got to slam it all the way down to 50 kilometers an hour. Yes, you've got big brakes on these cars, but it still requires a fair amount of work. But with a stop-go 30-second penalty, Bernard Barkhuizen and Philip Minnaar and Sanjan Pillay know that they can possibly go just get round him without an issue. But Morgan McCall is going to try and stick it out. He's got 3 laps to make it into the pits, do the stop-go, get going once again. But the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen and Philip Minnaar, they're just so close to one another that they can't actually break away. They can't take their foot off the gas because any one of them are going to take the opportunity to try and sling on past.
I mean, yeah, and Alan's saying surely they practice pit stops. Alan, yes, they do, but I think we're going to put that one down to maybe a finger error, something that I've done in a couple of races myself as well. You're so eager to get out of that pit lane that just a millisecond too early you release that pit limiter, and that's where you pick up that speeding in the pit lane, and yeah, that's all she wrote. So Morgan McCall effectively needing to do an extra pit stop. Philip Minnaar, he's still out into this, or in this battle with Barkhuizen and Pillay around him. Definitely still getting held up. Then I'm just going to jump out to my side screen. I'm having a look at Christian de Plooy. Steven, have a look at Christian de Plooy's lap time. I've been monitoring them. He is, except for the last lap, he's been consistently lapping quicker than the top 3. Cody Sherritt, Ryan Ottens, and Mac van der Merwe. So Christian is definitely making up some serious time in this stint. He timed that pit stop, as we said earlier, I think to perfection, got himself out in clear air, and he's definitely making up quite some time. I mean, Ryan Otten's last lap time, 1:35.9. Christian de Plooy, 1:35.5.
Sorry to jump in there. Bego Krobler landed up going a little bit sideways, and let's see actually what happened to the Audi, because it's cost him a position and has got Grant Sebastian onto the back of him. And I've got a funny feeling that we're starting to see these tires snap off. Yep, into the dirt. Just a wheel off. Couldn't get it back. And there's a rotation. But not quite what you want to deal with. And I think everyone's starting to feel it. If we have to talk about, surely people have practiced their pit stops, yes. But I'm going to quote the lyrics of a song back in the 90s.
Will you sing it?
I can try. I'll probably break the microphone. But it's a simple song called Heat of the Moment. So it goes, in the heat of the moment. That sort of thing comes into mind with
No,
guys
Steve, that sounded like Celine Dion and that Titanic song.
No. Unfortunately, it's my singing sounds like a car crash. Is the best thing you can hear on radio. I won't lie, but this is the thing.
I thought you were going to start singing "My Heart Will Go On."
Killing you softly. Let's go with that one.
Killing you softly. Well, we are effectively, 22, 23 minutes into this race. And we're getting close to that time, Stephen, where we started seeing the front engine cars last night having the upper hand and the mid-engine cars starting to struggle. Do you think Bago is hitting that phase where the rear end of that Audi is not too happy with him and struggling to hold on like we saw last night?
I think a lot of the drivers are starting to feel it. It doesn't matter whether you're a front engine or mid-engine. All the drivers are starting to push harder and harder to get round one another. They're hurting those tires. They're really focusing on the charge. And you're going to start mixing it up with the back markers. Tini and Kube trying to keep it all together. It looks like Mac van der Merwe coming and launching his way past as he was just trying to carve his way through the field. And Mac van der Merwe is in third place, so he needs to make quick work of the guys because he's got Brandon Kruger 1.5 seconds behind. He's got Loic just ahead of him to try and get past. Loic going to the inside line, trying to allow Mac van der Merwe to come by, but you can't get off the gas as well. This is all so difficult for the drivers. And whatever your strategy was at the start of the race, let's go back to the mentality. You made a strategy before you went into the race. You made a strategy in practice. You made a strategy in qualifying. You made a strategy in race. And 20 minutes in, you've made a different strategy. By the time you eventually employ whatever strategy you had in mind, it has evolved, it has changed, it has gone to and fro. How much
you've thrown it out the window.
That's it. It's at the moment you are winging it, and that's what a lot of the guys are doing. Unless you're like at the front where you've got Cody Sherritt, who's got a bit of time. Ryan Otten's 4.4 seconds. He can focus on what his strategy may be at this point, or how to evolve the strategy. Where in a race like Bernard Barkhuizen, and especially Philip Minnaar, who had a strategy for being in first place, now having to try and claw his way through. He's up into 16th place, chasing down 15. Yeah, this is not quite the place that you want to be in to have an optimum strategy, but you've got to take it on the chin and say, right, this is what we're doing. Well, Bernard, who just swings
almost
across
lost the Aston.
He actually swung across the front of the likes of Philip Minnaar, and there's the contact between the two.
And Sanjin in the background. He got the rough end of that one, but we saw that contact, as they go through that turn. But as you said, Barkhuizen, having a swing across the nose of Philip Minnaar, and I think that was kind of a bit of a late movement, but unfortunately Sanjin Pillai hopefully hasn't got too much damage. He had nowhere to go in that incident. But Stephen, before I carry on, I just need to say we now need to start behaving ourselves, because I see a certain Mr. Bertus Hugo has joined the chat. So we're going to put on our serious voices now for the remainder of this race. You're just going to keep quiet?
No, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the David Attenborough Show. No, but I mean...
I thought you got up and left when you saw him.
Oh, no, it just, exit stage left. But I actually want to give a little bit of love towards the back of the field. Charles had a little bit of a rough start, going after Loic Randall, trying to go around the outside. These two slugging it out. and having quite a ding-dong battle. This is for 24th and 23rd, and we got to show a bit of love to the guys who are at the back of the field, but they are pros. They earned their spot to be here. We have got multiple races ongoing. We've got our Pro server, which we're watching now. We've got our Pro-Am, our Am, our Gold, and our Silver. And if I was racing, they would have to make a extremely slow server of one.
Just what I wanted to mention now. No way that none of those servers that you mentioned now has got any place for me and you to race.
No. I think I'd come last in my own race if I had to be on a server.
Essentially, you will be lost in your own race.
The safety car will get the win.
Oh, man.
But these are the fastest of the fast in South Africa, duking it out. Yes, there is a couple of names that we are familiar of seeing racing with us, but a lot of the guys having a ton of fun, really putting in a huge amount of work, and especially for the championship for season 2, mixing it up with Indianapolis really goes and tests the drivers, considering we're literally continent hopping at this point. We started in the UK, we started in having a bit of fun in good old jolly England without the rain, so definitely not simulating the weather there, and now moving over to the beautiful sunshine of Watkins Glen and Indianapolis, but also testing the drivers on some new circuits which they may not be too familiar with. A lot of people don't actually jump into these circuits. They keep to the yield basics, the what you knows, and it's nice to see different skills being utilized. And especially when you start incorporating new circuits, your strategies change. It's the ultimate way of throwing a spanner in the ring, in the works, for the fun of it.
I mean, absolutely. Currently having a look at Peter Marr. I mean, Stephen, he's not doing too badly tonight. Currently in 8th position. So, it's currently battling it out with Bago, Groble in front of him and Grant Sebastian behind him. Definitely not a comfortable position, but he's running a little bit higher up in the field than what we've seen him run before. So let's see if he can keep that going and that good position going until the end of the race. Yes, there's still 50 minutes less. We're not even halfway through this race. Quickly hopping over to the chat, Robert McCall saying that, you know, they've been struggling a little bit or having a little bit of PC problems, and that might have contributed to the drive-through or the stop-and-go penalty that, you know, Morgan had to serve.
Oh, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's what we call force majeure. You know, you see it a lot in racing. It's where it gets rained out or a flock of birds decide to attack the circuit. It has happened.
Actually, I don't see Morgan out in track anymore.
No, it looks like Morgan, unfortunately, has disconnected, which is, it's truly a blow. I mean, he's been on a proper run, the 80k driver, really focusing on it, but now the pressure goes all onto his teammate to try and get going, and you're sure that the guys are busy chatting and saying, listen, we've got a problem. But Cody Sherritt, who is in a little bit of a ding-dong battle, trying to make his way through the back markers, and landed up with slight contact, just a bit of rubbing and racing. But Cody really having to work extremely hard under braking, gets it in, and really doing everything he can. But with a 3.9 second gap, he's lost out a fair amount of time, and Ryan Ottens is slowly starting to claw his way back into this race. He wants to try go for the position. And, well, it's now coming down to who's got the best strategy. What's going to be the right idea? Philip Minnaar actually...
Ooh, he's not having a good race.
No, Philip Minnaar landing up in the wall and going back to pits. And let's actually take a look at what happened to the young man. That Aston Martin squirreling all over the place. Doesn't look like any cars are around him. So maybe a dropping a wheel onto a speedy grass. I think a couple of drivers have decided. Tail came out. There's the grass and visiting the grandstands.
Saw the oncoming traffic.
Oh, just into the grandstands, and my heart goes out. Anytime I see a driver just battling, it doesn't matter who you are, how fast you are, it's not something you want to see happening. Yeah, Andre Serradio going and chasing down Sanjan Pillay. and getting onto the drive and really focusing on his charge. But Philip Minnaar from 1st to 21st, well, 23rd. It's a rough race at this point, and this is one where to the drive. Oh, Andre Serradio actually tried swinging to the inside, and the car kicked
Did he forget
back.
there was a wall?
It looked like he tried to go for the inside, second guessed it, and the car swung back underneath him and landed up collecting the wall. So let's actually take a look at that from inside the cockpit. I think he turned right, hoping to go to the inside, saw that the door closed back, swung to try and avoid it, and the tail came out from underneath him. Hard under braking, looks at the inside. Brakes, it actually bit him. Now, was that because it locked up the front and just dived too hard onto the nose that put him into that situation? Some damage are going to be carried onto that Mercedes, and not quite the way you wanted things to turn out. And, well, we've seen really few times, but that tells me the brake bias on that Mercedes is all the way to the front at this moment to try and just slam the nose into the ground to slow him down sufficiently to go for a pass.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gabriel dos Santos saying, Serradio had a miscalculation on the braking. Tend to agree with that one. I think he misjudged that one, and too much steering input, maybe under braking, depending on the brake bias of that car. Stephen, as you mentioned, that rear end decided, nope, I'm not going to live with it. As we see him running very wide out of the last corner, maybe also struggling with a little bit of understeer. We're almost halfway through this race, so tires are not going to be at their best as we see De Bastos having a look on the inside. Is he close enough? Yes, making it stick. I think Serradio deciding that it's better not to be too enthusiastic into turn one.
That is Cody Sherritt, actually. It's not
Cameron.
Sorry. That's Cody Sherritt.
Am I losing focus again? I duly apologize.
It's all
Getting
good.
excited for lapping.
It's all good, but I think Andre Serradio, when he climbed on the anchors, was just a solid fart on the way. Under braking, this is the thing that it can happen. It's so easily it can happen that the drivers are going to be so careful of what they set up are, and little movements can land up with some big changes, but you can see a little bit of damage carried onto the front of the car. Cody Sherritt, though, carving his way through the field, still has a bit of a gap. He's actually jumped it up to 4.4 seconds, so starting to leg it out a little bit. Ryan Otten's ahead of Mac van der Merwe. Mac is actually 5.4 seconds. He's getting chased down by Brandon Kruger. Daniel Rowe in 5th place. Bego Krobler in 6th. And I know these two are having a nice little chat to one another, saying, listen, let's keep things friendly here. We've had our discussions at Watkins Glen. We had our discussions last night. Let's keep things going. Peter Meyer in 7th place. 8th place is Grant Sebastian. SES House in 9th. 10th place is Johan Kleinans, who's probably listening to the stream at the moment, going after his teammate and looking to put a huge amount of pressure on him. So flash your lights, Johan. You're now on TV. Flash your lights. Enjoy. Go wild. Maybe the hazard lights. But he's under some huge amount of pressure to try and climb past his teammate. He wants to try and maximize as many points as possible. A little bit further down, Cameron De Bastos actually going onto the back of Andre Serradio. The Ferrari hoping to just leg it in front of the Mercedes as they go hard under braking and not making their way by. Actually, just want a little bit of insight for anyone that's watching the current GT3 racing that's come to South Africa. I'm going to point out, Bego Krobler's in an Audi. And there was an Audi at Kyalami today, under refueling, caught fire.
Yeah, we did have a discussion on that one. I mean, it was kind of strange where the fire started. It almost looked like the fire started in the seat. Things got a bit hot in the cockpit, so to say.
No, what I could put it out is fuel went in, pulled back, the release didn't release, and came back, and fuel went over a nice hot exhaust. But if we take a look at the racing here, take a look at Ryan Otten's trying to go up on the inside with the Porsche. He's trying to not lose too much time at this point. He managing to get around Cameron De Bastos, but that's allowed Tian Elof to go and rub his hands together and say, listen, Thank you very much for that second place. I've now have a chance to claw my way back up through the field as they get onto the power. Couple of guys managing to get their pit stops done and dusted, and that's actually Sunjin Pillay who's managed to get all these pit stops done, along with Justin Lotus.
On the outside.
Now it's got the inside, but just didn't have enough of a run. That Ferrari just having enough rotation to breathe for all of half a second, and now needs to get back on the charge. Tian Ilof focusing on the charge. His teammate going to be keeping a very close eye on him, and you can see how Cameron's locking down those brakes to just try and slow the car down as late as possible to ensure that Aston Martin... Oh, and there's a contact. And I think he went for a defense, and unfortunately the contact...
The Ferrari exited left.
Yeah, let's actually take her on board. I've got a funny... Actually, let's go to Helicam and take a look. I got a funny feeling that Cameron tried slamming the door. Elof just stuck his nose in and, well, closed the door on someone's foot at this point, and it didn't quite work out in favor of Cameron de Bastos. You can see Elof up on the inside, B pillar contact, and there's a rotation.
I mean, if you look at that accident in the making, it definitely does look like Elof had the upper hand over that Ferrari. Going through that section, it even brings me back to what I said earlier on. Definitely at this stage of the race, it does seems like the front engine cars have got a little bit of an edge over the mid-engine cars. I mean, that Ferrari really looked like it was struggling through that section. As we have a look now at Grant Sebastian making his way around the track. Currently, he is roughly about 1.7, 1.8 seconds behind the car in front of him. Who's in front of him? Bago.
It looks like Bago Krobler, who is up ahead. He's going to try and get past Brandon Kruger. He's going for his first pit stop. So, let's take a run through. Cody Sherritt in first place. Ryan Otten's in second, who have not done their pit stops. It's now heading into 40 minutes of the race, so we're getting into that halfway point. And now this is where, what are the tires going to be looking like? What is your fuel going to be looking like? How long are you going to be in the pits? Tian Ilof, last time he was in the pits, actually put a new fresh set of boots on, so he's gone for an early, get some new rubber out on the car and start pushing it as hard as he can, which means he only has to focus on a refuel for, just put in 3 liters, 93 sort of thing. I'm yet to try and figure out what's going to be next. Cameron de Bastos off into the weeds once again. He's mowing the lawn at the moment. And this Ferrari is not having a fun time. So we jump to Tim, the cameraman, in the heli. Yes, we managed to give him a pilot's license, and he has not crashed it yet. We are still waiting with fire engines at the moment. Tim, the cameraman, actually doing a good job. And it looks like Cameron following the lines, keeping in the tow. That Ferrari squirreling it just a little bit. There's the rotation, and exit stage right. So our drivers now focusing on a hard charge to claw their way through the field. And a couple of drivers pulling into the pits to get it all done and dusted. But eyes are going to be on the likes of Cody Sherritt to see how he's going to be able to move his way through the field. And where is it going to work out? With the likes of Ryan Otten's chasing him down, it's all or nothing at this point. Bago Krobler in 4th place. He's managed to move up. Essie Esterhaus in 5th. Jan Kleinert getting past as Mac van der Merwe's in the pits. Grant Sebastian is in the pits as well, getting their fuel done and dusted and getting their first stop sorted out. So, lots to think about here. But ladies and gentlemen, I would like to know from you guys in the chat. I know a couple of guys have been sitting there with calculators. A couple of people have been looking at what can be next and where can they move out on this. I want to see what your guys' thoughts are. Who's going to be able to claw their way up through the field? Who's going to be able to take charge? And it does look like, unfortunately, my co-host has...
I'm still here.
Oh, there we go. Welcome
I'm
back.
waiting for you to finish talking.
Oh, well, you can always be impolite.
While you were busy looking at that replay, I had a look at Brandon Kruger's pit stop. Stationary for 33 seconds, so definitely tires and fuel on that pit stop. So he split the race into 2, putting it around about 40 minutes. and trying to get the best out of both worlds in terms of tyre life, Stephen.
This is the thing you've got to consider. Cody Sherritt into the pits, though. So is Ryan Ottens. Daniel Rowe has gone past. So this is to keep an eye out on who's putting fuel, who's putting tyres. Cody Sherritt staying quite long in the pits. Ryan Ottens also. So that tells me they're hitting past the 30-second mark. And they're going to be putting in some fresh boots onto those cars. But the race is going to be climbing out of the pits. And who's going to get the jump on it? Bego Krobler coming by. He's chasing down his teammate. Jan Kleinans up into third place. Is going to be rather happy with that. And getting a little bit of TV time in third place. So screenshot that when he's out of the car. Please don't do it while you're in the car. We know you get a little bit interesting with technology. Paul Gerber going after Loic Randebal, who gets it all types of sideways. Doing the famous Porsche snap mid-corner. These cars rotate. Paul up on the inside, trying to make it stick. Couldn't do what it make it run by. And Loic really focusing on the hard charge to try and pull away from the team try-hard driver. And Loic actually doing a phenomenal job in terms of defense at this point.
I mean, absolutely. As we all know, Paul Gerber, very experienced racing driver. Not his first time out in this Pro Division. Last season, I think he raced in Pro-Am. He spent a little bit of time away from ACC, so it took him a little bit of time to get up to pace again, I think. But Paul back in the Pro Division, and he's certainly not making the life that easy for Randebal, but definitely coping very well with the pressure at this stage as we see them going through this tight last section. Stephen, this really is an interesting section, and also when we saw on that track guide, so to call it, the Porsche can get all sorts out of shape through that section if you push it very hard. Paul now tucking in behind Randebal, and he's trying to maximize that slipstream. The Porsche's going head to head down this pit straight, stays in the slipstream, does not look like he's going to have a look on the inside, decides to just close up under braking and follow him through. Maybe strategy of putting him under pressure, maybe forcing him into a mistake. What do you think, Stephen?
I think a bit of both, and also knowing the limitations of the car at the moment, considering they still got both one stop. The tyres are getting a bit worn out, the car's getting a little bit lighter, it's starting to squirrel a little bit more underneath him. It's more on the lines of put the pressure on, but also the confidence in slamming onto the acres right at last minute isn't going to happen. And it's things I have to be so careful of when they get into a nice little battle like this. Remember, with slipstreams as well, for anyone that isn't too familiar with it, your car in front is punching a hole in the air. He's taking all the resistance. The air is moving around him. The car behind that's followed closely is getting no air put onto it. It's got no resistance, which means it's going to go a little bit quicker. But at the same time, you've now taken away all the stuff that's meant to go and push onto your front splitter, onto your rear wing to give you grip. So you are having a trade-off of your aero going down and you're focusing on more your top end. Works out when you get onto the faster parts of the circuit, when you get onto the straights, but when you're nailing in through the corners, that's what happens.
Aero wash, they call it, yeah.
Understeer, as soon as it steps out, and he looks like he was actually trying to follow Loic into the pits and second-guessed it.
Or maybe he got caught out, and that's when they say tunnel vision comes into effect. You're so focused on that car in front that you tend to almost forget where you are on the circuit. I mean, we see him run wide, and it looks like Paul almost followed him and then said, oopsie, I need to go left.
I got a funny feeling that was the case. Or, and he slides it out as well, or Paul was opting to go into the pits, hoping that possibly, just possibly, it's enough to get him ahead and to try and undercut. But
also an option.
But seeing that the car ahead of him, Loic, just dives into the pits, he's decided, well, maybe that wasn't the best solution, and backed out of it last second. It was a Kimi Raikkonen moment of pit, never mind, stay out sort of situation.
Or it might have been a question, do you want to pit question?
No, he's in a Porsche. If you want a pit question, then it's asking for 3 tires, not 4. Take a look though, Christian Deploy in 14th place. He has completed all his pit stops. He is 10.5 seconds behind Paul Herber. I think he'll get by, but he won't be able to touch the front. Daniel Rowe, on the other hand, I think he's got a problem. He's got 2 pit stops to go, trying to maintain the tires. Cody Sherritt in 2nd place, closing down on him at a rate of knots at the moment. Ryan Otten's also doing the same. He's actually 5.7 seconds behind the likes of Cody Sherritt. Cody putting in the quickest lap time, 1:35.1 early, in the last lap. So he's put the fresh slicks on. There's rubber out on the circuit. He's focusing on the charge. Ryan Otten's doing what he can to try and catch up to him. Mac van der Merwe as well. Brandon Kruger, who's down in 5th. Tian Elof in 6th. 7th is Bagel Kroblock. Grant Sebastian, SES House. Jan Kleinans in 10th place, who completely misses the corner because he heard his name. And decides to look across. Well done, Kleinans. Tinian Kube in a battle with Peter Meyer, who is on a bit of a charge. The 15-year-old has really been on a great charge in terms of pace, still refining what he can do. And I know it's been getting a little bit of guidance from everyone to just try and figure out what is going to be the better way forward and how to utilize the talents in a positive way and where it can make it all of an impact. And this is the thing, it's all about, not only are you racing against the guys, you're able to go and talk, they're able to teach and give a little bit, not all the trade secrets, can't give away all the trade secrets, but just enough. And I know Robert McCall going and saying that 1st, 2nd, 3rd won't look like they'll change, referring to the likes of Cody Sherritt up in 1st place. But these are the things that guys have to keep an eye out. And, talking about a person that's not going and being on the phone and sending messages, Kleinans actually did post in while he is going and racing.
Like a race so far.
Like a race so far.
Rough.
I don't know. He has to have someone sitting next to him. I'd love to actually have a discussion with Kleinans at some point and say, listen, mate.
How do you do it?
Yeah, we've got to... Are we going to include in-car radio and just make sure the mute button is very close by in case of anything? But this is the one thing that I want to lead into. Drivers, team managers, teammates, all listening in on the stream to find out where guys are pitting. How far are they? What needs to be done? Yes, we're a little bit delayed behind, but...
They go into the pits, it looks like.
That's Daniel Rowe.
Oh, Daniel Rowe. Oh, man, Daniel gets all sorts of out of shape on that pit entry, but I think my brain is fried after today, listening to myself commentate.
Just, Audi, BMW, made in Germany, same thing,
Yeah,
don't worry
same
about it.
thing, they almost look the same, especially from the front. It's very similar looking cars.
No, Audi has a better looking, and the BMW's front grille is used to make dam walls.
Well, I was actually talking more on the lines of both have got a bumper, they both have got 2 headlights, a windscreen, very similar looking. I mean, looking at this Ferrari and BMW, almost looks like the same thing. Oh, waiting for the chat's feedback on that one.
So, dearly beloved, we gathered here today to mourn the loss of Janeman Prius, who decided after comparing LaFerrari versus the German engineering BMW, I think you can keep to your Toyota hybrid name of Prius.
Well, I actually had a thought the other day, as you know, I drive a V8, and I actually thought about putting a sticker on the back of that V8 that says Prius.
There we go. I'll be proud of you.
Yeah. it identifies as one.
There we go.
A hybrid.
And just to point out, Cody Sherritt doing a 134.8 on his last lap, so actually going a bit quicker, really stepping up the game to go after Daniel Rowe. But Daniel Rowe has done his pit stop, now has got Cody Sherritt climbing onto the back of him. Has Daniel Rowe found the magic that was needed? Didn't do enough.
Daniel did not take tyres in his last pit stop, only stationary for 12.5 seconds, where Cody was stationary for 33 seconds in his last pit stop. So is Daniel going to try and run the tyres long? maybe he doesn't feel like that BMW needs tyres at this stage.
And Teddy Kube pulling off. He's got a drive-through penalty and actually coming to a stop on the circuit. So rather unfortunate. I think he is calling it enough is enough. Too many track limits going and playing into it. But Cody Sherritt after Daniel Rowe, and this is going to be a all-out slugfest for first place at the moment, as the likes of Daniel Rowe is keeping an eye because his teammate is currently in third place. So Cody Sherritt is in the middle of two sister teams. They're going to be battling it out, but Daniel Rowe's not backing down. Cody Sherritt, who is on the hard charge, leaning to the inside. Daniel Rowe following it through. Cody Sherritt trying to go around the outside, hard on the brakes. Gonna look for the cutback, and Daniel Rowe doing all I can say is a real karting move, and that is just to dab on the brakes ever so slightly. Knock your following car's drive a little bit. Cody Sherritt up on the inside. Daniel Rowe around the outside. Cody Sherritt is going to have the legs on him. And hard onto the braking, and looks like Cody Sherritt just managing to get by. He's got the fresher tyres at this point. He's able to do moves like that. But Daniel Rowe still putting in a monstrous fight despite it. Cody Sherritt going and trying to play a bit of hook, line, sinker. Now needs to pull away and start opening a gap if he wishes to hold his first place at the moment. I see Tian Elof, who...
Oh, that was interesting.
Well, we call that lag, or either his brake bias is so far forward that the Aston Martin is discovering that it's a geologist at this point.
Doing some digging.
It's...
Well, in all fairness, I think Kruger is digging in not Kruger. Elof is digging in very hard to try and get that Aston.
I think Elof has just disappeared. Yep, he is gone. Elof with...
I thought I got names wrong again when you interrupt me like that.
It looks like Elof, who was on a proper charge. Unfortunately, the Aston Martin decided it did not want to hang in Indianapolis anymore. It wanted to go on a little adventure, join Barney, but he's out of the race, and that's rather unfortunate, as both teammates are out of round number 4. Valuable points for the team championship, unfortunately lost at this point. And there's the heartache of it. You know, it's either you've got Murphy in the pits with the 13 spanner, or you got Lady Luck over the radio, and unfortunately Murphy was hanging around the pits at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately 20 cars left on track, Stephen. Unfortunately, it's the times we live in. Load shedding, wreaks havoc wherever we go. We had the discussion of you can run all the backup systems in the world, but if internet connections are not stable, unfortunately, these things tend to happen. Call it a mechanical failure. As we have a look at Dean Cabasa making his way around the track. At this stage, I won't say he's lonely out of track. He's got Justin Lotus behind him, just 1.6 seconds or so, trying to hunt him down. So hopefully we've got another battle on our hands. I think at this stage the field is quite spread out. The only other real close racing going on is Andre Serradio and Paul Gerber, but at this stage it's just these two battles as we hit that point in the race where the race just starts to settle a little bit as we have a look at Serradio making his way around the track. But Steve, I don't think this is going to be too long before things start heating up again, as we have basically half the field from 1st till 10th position still having to make their second pit stop, where Christian Deploy in 11th position all the way down to Randable in 20th position, having completed both their pit stops.
It's going to be an interesting run right to the end, and well, for the chat that's busy talking out there, I know guys are saying it's the BMW is better looking. Well, the M6 is absolutely fantastic, but whoever designed the front grille of this... Well, the M6 is fantastic. The M6 GT3 is beautiful, but whoever designed the BMW M4 GT3, well, he was fired the next day. That's the only way. As soon as that came off the shelf, it was done and dusted. Kleinans getting ahead of his teammate, SES Dallas, deciding to climb into the pits. Maybe a little bit of team orders to try and see what's going to work out for their race. And this is part of our top 10 that's actually first into the box. Now it depends of where Essie's actually going to climb out ahead of Christian Deploy, who comes monstrously past our Christian Deploy up into the top 10 and first of the top 10 that's actually completed all his pit stops at the moment. Well,
having a bit of a lonely race is Christian tonight. I mean, during his second stint after his pit stop, no real cars around him, and it very much looks like after his second stop, again, very little cars around him, so that has allowed him to run a fairly decent pace at this stage. It does look like his lap times have slowed down a little bit. If you have a look at the top end of the field, Cody Sherwood doing a 35.1, Christian on a 35.7, as we have a look at Justin Lotus making his way around the track. Justin Lotus's last lap time, 136.4 almost. So, Stephen, this field right through, I mean, the lap times aren't that far apart. We've got people in 17th position like Nicholas Manuel doing a 35.7. Still not that far off the top 4 lap times.
well, just take a look at Andre Serradio. We talk about getting the lines just slightly wrong. And it looks like Otten's got very close onto the back of him, is really hammering. You can see in the review mirror, just trying to force his way through. And Serradio just saying, listen, buddy, let's get past the corners first.
Winking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, that's it. And little
touching the wall.
Yeah, just grazing the wall ever so slightly. And I think, Ryan Ottens was just trying to get him going, trying to egg him. You need to go. Give me a bit of space here. In the review mirror, but these are the things that you have to be considering. What's going to be the better option of your race when you come into the middle parts of the circuit where it's a lot tighter? It is a little bit follow the leader for all the drivers, and this is where the respect comes in of, okay, well, you are a back marker, but it's a bit difficult to just jump out the way or, lift off a bit because there's no room and there's no room for error. You have to play follow the leader. And this is where I feel Indianapolis does provide some great action, but it also tests the drivers in a very unique way to get going. Brandon Kruger going a little bit slower this time around and doing a 135.9 heading into the 36s for fifth place.
Yeah,
but this is the interesting part where guys are just trying to figure out what's going to be best. Ryan Hodson, though, has got Daniel Rowe in front of him and is on the charge now. So let's see if Daniel Rowe is going to move out the way, allow Ryan Ottens to get through. Is Ryan Ottens going to just decide, listen, I'm going to fight you for the second place? Gloves off, no team orders. Let's go at it. Let's see what you can do. And Daniel Rowe, who is a multinational champion in real life motorsport, now taking a look and going, all right, show me what you can do. We might be in team cars here. We might be going for the same championship, but I want to see what you can do. Test your metal. And that's what I want to actually see, is teammates testing their metal against one another. It's always nice that your teammate moves out the way or gives you a bit of a draft or, gives you a bit of a helping hand. But as we brought out, there's always a bit of fun in it.
Yeah, let's have a look at it from this perspective. Daniel's still on the same set of tyres that he started the race with. He is struggling a bit. Daniel last lap time 136.3. Ryan Ottens a whole second faster, 135.3. Cody Sherritt out in front, 135.1. So Daniel a second slower than Cody and Ryan Ottens behind him. So I think those tyres are now really starting to go, and Daniel is struggling to get the all-out pace out from the BMW. I think maybe a little bit of understeer, sticking out its ugly head that he has to deal with at this stage.
Now, really having to try and battle it out. Ryan Otten's trying everything he can to get onto the back of Daniel Rowe. So close under braking. Porsche just able to hit the brakes a little bit later than the BMW. And if you look at, in terms of tyres, Daniel Rowe has no fight to him at this point. He's done one stop, and he hasn't changed his tyres. We're now into 18 minutes and 30 seconds left of the race. Those tyres are worn. They are done. They are calling for a rest at this point. But
Remember the last race, Daniel also went for the strategy 20 or so minutes to go. New tires, light car, light on fuel, and trying to put in those quali laps. Do you think he's going for a similar, strategy this time around as we see him yet again going around for another lap? Ryan Otten's right in that slipstream. I think Ryan's going to decide to duck out any time now and see if he can have the legs on Daniel Rowe. And he makes his way past. Daniel did not exactly make it very difficult for Ryan at that stage, Stephen.
I think there's no fight left in the tires. He was just trying to not lose out much lap time. And I got to say, it's a good move not to put up a massive fight. But it's something you have to be cognizant of is you've got a car that's on a fresh pair of tires. You've got your teammates around you. As much as you want to get into the fight, is those tires going to hold? Can you expect the tires to just grab and pull you along into the corner? Is it going to do what you want it to do, or is it going to just sink?
Absolutely. Stephen, I see we've got an interesting chat going on YouTube. They're talking about what is an alien. So maybe we should just touch on that subject very quickly. And it has been mentioned, I see Robin Wentworth says the quick guys on ACC are called aliens because they are not human.
Oh, Ryan Otten's off into the dirt. And that's allowed Daniel Rowe to get a little bit closer. Daniel Rowe actually giving him some space on the rejoin. But I think Ryan Otten's just braking a fraction too late. And that's allowed Daniel Rowe to go up. It's not only ACC that you get aliens. Aliens is just the normal term that we use for, well, any of in motorsport. In virtual racing. Also, guys that are any competition. It's people, as you said, they can't possibly be human. They superhuman in their reactions, or they can see stuff a little bit more clearer that we just can't see, and everyone can become an alien. Everyone can become a seriously quick driver. It just takes a lot of practice to get there.
Let's take myself for instance. In both ACC and in iRacing currently, I've pretty much peaked on the abilities that are what I am able to do, and that's normally around about between 1.5 and 1.8 seconds from the top guys. So in my heydays in ACC, I was about 1.5, 1.8 seconds behind the likes of the Cody Sherritts, the Ryan Ottens, the Daniel Rose, the Van der Merwes, those type of guys. Same in iRacing at this stage. So that's the fastest I can go. If I want to go faster, I will definitely... Oh, as we see Ottens running wide again there. What do you think is going on?
Ottens is just demanding too much out of the car. I think if we go back a little bit and take a look in the car, I've been keeping an eye on Daniel Rowe and Ryan Ottens as they've been getting close to one another. But is Ryan Ottens watching his mirrors? That's what's going through my head. Hard onto the brakes and just
out-braking himself.
I think he's watching the mirrors. I think he's watching Daniel Rowe at this point and missing out the brake markers. 2 for 2 is not it's nothing to scoff at. It's a bit of a concern, and I think if the team could communicate with one another, it would be, listen, please make a move. And Paul Herbert, what on earth happened to Paul as he landed up going a little bit slow? Let's actually jump into the car. 5th gear, blue flag coming onto the dash, so he's going to have to be aware that a faster car is catching up. Porsche getting a little bit of a tank slapper, trying his best, gets onto the power. 3rd gear, 4th gear, and there's a tank slapper. Slides it round, and
doing very well not to collect the wall there.
Successfully changed the color of his race overalls, that's for certain. That's something you don't want to have 13 minutes left of the race. That's allowed Nicholas Manuel to get onto the back of Andres Serradio. But yes, back onto what you're saying. the skill level is something you need to work on, and you might hit your peak. You got to try and figure out how to push beyond it. A lot of people actually go and get guys to
Coaching.
train
Yeah.
them. To go
If I
teach
want
them.
to, if I want to go quicker, and I've made peace with that, I will have to start looking at getting some kind of coaching because, I mean, let's be honest. We watch the laps of the quicker guys, and honestly, you sit there and think, how do you do that? Because I cannot do that. I will have to be taught how to do that. And some of these guys, Stephen,
Oh, Seradio.
Seradio.
Seradio, Nicholas
Nice choir we
Manuel.
got going.
That's it. Nicholas Manuel and Seradio coming together, and I think Nicholas Manuel was just a little bit later on the brakes and gave him a little bit of a bump draft into the corner. Gets it to the toe, so let's take a look from on board Nicholas Manuel's point of view. And not quite what you want to see, a big Mercedes going completely sideways, hard onto the brakes. There's the tap, yeah. Seradio getting a little bit of a love tap, a late Valentine's kiss from Nicholas Manuel. You can call that.
if you want to call it that. But Manuel doing very well, staying behind him and giving Seradio enough time to recover himself. That also shows you, Stephen, the class of this type of racing that we've got going on here tonight, as we see Manuel and Seradio making their way around the track with who's that behind them?
I think that actually might be the likes of it's not Dean Cabasa, it might be further up. Just trying to actually see, it's one of,
Isn't it Grant Sebastian?
it might be Grant Sebastian that's onto the back of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is Grant Sebastian.
lining them up for a possible lap maneuver.
Well, the thing is, he's in 7th place, and both these cars are 16th and 15th, so they backmarkers, they blue flags, but now the question is, how involved do you want to get into their fight? Do you really want to go for it? And Andre Seradio into the dirt. That has allowed Nicholas Manuel to come by. And Seradio doing what he can. It does look like Grant Sebastian bailing into the pits. He's deciding not to get involved in this battle and would rather give him a little bit of air to go and have a bit of a race. But now Grant Sebastian, let's keep an eye on him because Kleinans is going to be coming by. He's in 8th place and he's getting chased down by Peter Meyer. He's a little bit further back. So I think Kleinans is going to get by Grant Sebastian, taking that 7th place. Peter Meyer, though, actually pulling into the pits. So Meyer is into the pits. Yeah, 9th position at the moment. And putting in some seriously good pace for a 15-year-old, might I say. I just feel absolutely ancient now. Christian Deploy up into 10th place. And now going to be moving his way up past Grant Sebastian. So he'll put himself successfully into 8th place. And, well,
Stephen,
Christian
Daniel
might
Rowe.
have the idea.
you think Christian might have the idea. One thing I want to find out, Daniel Rowe, 10 minutes to go. He's made one pit stop, has not taken any tyres yet. Do you think he's going to run it to the end on one set of tyres? I mean, there's 10 minutes to go. There's really no use in taking a new set of tyres this late into the race.
I think Pirelli has lost a sale at Indianapolis, or he's definitely not.
A little
running.
bit of cost saving going on.
There we go. You know, budget's tight this time around, so you got to make do with what you got.
Sorry, mate, you got one set. Make it work.
That's it. Probably, you know, like the old Formula One when they had the Michelins out on circuit.
Yeah.
You know, you just make do. They're gonna have to last you. Make peace with the fact that the wall will come up a bit quicker. Your brakes are not going to work as much as you think they're going to, but you have to be so cautious. And I've got to say, a very, very bold risk. If it works, and you see Bago Krobler getting past one of the back markers, but if it works, that's a testament to the driver and the car setup. That he's
Absolutely.
able to keep the tires for that long. And it will be the first time this season that we've seen a driver able to keep a set of tires to the end. It's not an easy thing to do, considering everything that's gone on. If he can pull it off, well, I'll take my hat off to the drive to Daniel Rowe on it. And I know a lot of people will also be taking a look and going, well, can he actually do it? Is this possible? And what is the repercussions going into the next round, seeing it can work, that you don't have to take tires and still have a good pace underneath you to still fight it out? Is that going to evolve people's strategies, especially since we're now at the halfway point where every point counts, no matter where you finish? You want to try and finish your race. Well, I think we're in
I'm
for
having
a good
look at the timing screens, and at this stage, Mac van der Merwe in 4th position, 3.8 seconds behind Daniel Rowe, but it's not like he's really catching up all that quickly. Time is starting to run out. I mean, now 3.5 seconds behind, so that gap has, remained fairly stable over the last 2 laps or so. Things are going to get interesting as we see, was it Bago doing his last pit stop? So he's heading out back on track, currently 7th position. Let's see where he feeds back out on track.
I'm keeping an eye on Christian Deploy. He's coming down the straight. Bago Krobler trying to make his way out. Kleinan's got by. And Christian Deploy up into 7th place. So he's taken that early strategy, and it seems to be paying off slowly but surely. He has to keep a good pace though. But slowly but surely, tortoise versus the hare at this point. We're seeing a tortoise versus the hare. And I've got to say, that is incredibly interesting to see how it all works out. And what the strategies. Ryan Ottens passes by. Daniel Rowe passes by. Cody Sherritt, though, opting to go into the pit. Mac van der Merwe into the pit as well. Brandon Kruger into the pit. Kleinans is still on the gas. Christian Deploy trying to do everything he can. And take a look at Peter Meyer going after Sanjan Pillay. This is for 12th and 11th. But Cody Sherritt, who's making his way down pit lane. I think it was a splash and dash at this point. Mac van der Merwe also making way out. Brandon Kruger again going. Where's Kleinans going to filter out? I think Cody Sherritt has enough space to maintain that 3rd place. But now is going to have to go on a charge after Daniel Rowe. Kleinans, who's got to try and figure out. Kleinans actually bails into the pits, so he's getting it all sorted. But Ryan Ottens, Daniel Rowe have not pitted. These are the only 2 drivers. We're into the 5 minutes and 45 seconds left of this race. And, well, it's all on the cards. And what is the Team Hybrid Academy Doroma and Team Hybrid Academy driver going to do to counter the later pit stop of Cody Sherritt? Has Cody undercut the 2 drivers, or has he lost out just a fraction amount of time? Ryan Ottens in the pits, Daniel Rowe into the pits, Cody Sherritt still coming by. Janneman, keep an eye on Ryan Ottens and Daniel Rowe. Let's see, will they have enough spacing, because they have literally... They've got to have at least about 30 seconds to get ahead. But it looks like Cody coming around the final corner gets onto the gas.
Ryan and Daniel still stationary in the pit. Ryan Otten's only moving now. Cody coming through the final section. Oh,
it's going to be close. It's going to be very close to see Nicholas Manuel also with a drive-through penalty.
Ryan's still on pit limiter.
Ryan is still on pit limiter. Cody Sherritt coming blasting by. Ryan Ottens trying to get out. Cody Sherritt going and passing Ryan Ottens and Daniel Rowe to take it. So we're in for a race for the last 4 minutes and 20 seconds of this race. Nicholas Manuel going to be kicking himself at this point with that drive-through penalty. He has to do it within 3 laps. There is no other option. And if he leaves it to the checkered flag, it's going to cost him severely. And Andres Serradio is going to be rubbing his hands together along with the Project Vapor team saying, that's exactly what we needed. But Cody Sherritt going and making the play. Dealing and, he took the gamble and got the payout. Now it's all about taking it all the way to the end.
And Daniel Rowe getting out 4.1 seconds in front of Mac van der Merwe. So, Stephen... he's going to do it on 1 set of tires, and the gamble paid off for him. 3 minutes 30 seconds to go in this race. Daniel Rowe in third position, one set of tires. As you said earlier on, this is going to make people rethink their strategies a bit, because they're going to start thinking, if Daniel Rowe can do it, I can do it as well. But obviously Daniel had the car underneath him, and he felt that this car can go to the end in one set of tires. And as you mentioned earlier on, setup does play a huge difference. Driving style does make a huge difference in tire wear.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, to get that done is mind-boggling of how hard you have to work. And in all my time of sim racing, and I've tried it before, going the full distance on one set of tires, and it's not an easy feat. But to keep the pace that these guys are doing is absolutely incredible. And I've done a stint on, done an hour and 20-minute race on a set of tires without changing, but I'm 12 to 13 seconds slower than the rest of these guys. So I'm not even
that much slower.
I'm not in the same ballpark, and it's mind-boggling how they managed to pull it off. Peter Meyer going after Surgeon Pillay. This is a 12th and 11th position, and well, our pro drivers showing off their talents, but the repercussions of what tonight's race has done for the championship and for the strategies for each of the circuits going forward is huge. There is ripples of note that are going to be going through of, listen guys, we can save precious seconds in the pits. And I'm not talking about changing your tires means you stopped in the box for 30 seconds plus.
Yeah, but one guy that did not try and save any seconds, Cody Sherritt, he's dishing out the seconds, currently almost an 11-second lead over Ryan Ottens.
Nicholas Manuel with the disqualification.
Yeah.
And that is for staying out too long, ignoring the COC giving you a drive through and landing up with, you don't want to follow the drive through penalty. Well, here's a flag. It's all painted one color, and
you should be able to understand it.
Yeah, there's a unfortunate,
and it's not yellow like we see there in the background.
It's rather unfortunate.
Cody Sherritt's gone off.
Cody Sherritt landing off into the weeds, pushed too hard. Let's take a look and jump back a little bit of time, trying to maneuver his way around the circuit. And did that Honda just drop a wheel? A little bit of a slide. He is fighting it. I think the tires are just falling off. He's pushing incredibly hard, getting very close for an aero wash. Goes out, there's the aero wash, tail steps out, and into the weeds. He keeps it out of the wall, but that has eaten some time away from it. Ryan Ottens, 8 seconds, but, not quite what you wanted to have.
But now we're having a look at Christian Deploy and Kruger going at it, and this is the first real battle that Christian has had in this race. He's had a very lonely race up until this far. And now we're having to do some racing, Stephen.
Ryan Ottens actually a little bit slow. Daniel Rowe getting ahead of him. Daniel Rowe into second place. Ryan Ottens into third. So there's a bit of change up for position. But Cody Sherritt comes across the line, taking first place of our run number 4. Daniel Rowe going to be coming across in second. Ryan Ottens in third. Mac van der Merwe in fourth. Brandon Kruger still slugging it out with Christian Deploy right until the end. Final corner. Who gets on the gas? Is it going to be the mighty Mercedes? Is it going to be the Aston Martin? Following all the way through to the wall. And it looks like Brandon Kruger just getting ahead of Christian Deploy. Bego Krobler making his way through. He's in 7th place. And looks like he's opened a huge gap compared to himself. And Grant Sebastian, who is in 8th, as he is to house at this point, will be finishing in 9th place with Johan Kleinans chasing him down. Well, I've got to say that touch wood somewhere. Where's wood? Because we've seen fuel running out for a lot of drivers and the guys having to limp it across the line. Couple of retirements for the race, but all in all, some great racing at Indianapolis.
Yeah, it was, these hour and 20 minutes flew by. It felt actually shorter than last night's 45-minute sprint race. The way these guys have been going at it. Peter Maher not far behind, 0.8 of a second behind Sanjan Pillay, but running wide out of that last quarter. Sanjan does look quite happy with his 11th place tonight.
Narrowly just missing out Peter Maher, who was really on the gas to him and trying to make up some ground. So a very, very close race between them. And, well, there we go. There is our races. A couple of disconnects, a couple of issues, but all in all, some great racing. So let's head back to the commentary box. And we are back in the commentary box after some great racing. But, gentlemen, some fantastic racing at Indianapolis. All the drivers putting in a huge amount of effort. And I've got to say, well done to every single driver. Whether you were in the race and unfortunately were disconnected, or you managed to cross the line, Indianapolis putting up a hard fight for all our drivers here at the Middle State Grid Championship, round number 4, halfway done with the championship.
Yeah, 4 races done, 4 to go. We're starting to head to that business end of the season. But, Stephen, what a race. I mean, we've seen some brilliant racing tonight around Indianapolis, and make no mistake, Indianapolis is not an easy circuit. It's very much a circuit of two halves. You do have the oval where all is flat out, the oval part. But this inner field is absolutely tight and twisty and very difficult to get the flow right. Talking about flow, if I'm not mistaken, we're heading off to Hungaroring next week, which is also the kind of tracks I tend to be terrible on Hungaroring. I'll get that flow wrong each and every time. So, going off next week to another difficult circuit. What do you say?
Definitely Hungaroring is going to challenge our drivers, and it does look like someone tried drawing a kettle but failed miserably in doing it. But it is going to test our drivers in how they set up is going to work. What are they going to do? And, it's going to be one to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, just quickly having a look at our local chatter. Jan Kleinhans says, good race, hoping we don't come back here soon. So that's what he thinks about this track.
He had a lot of fun with the circuit. But also, Yanaman, anything in closing that you would like to say to everyone? And, just your final thoughts.
Firstly, I want to say well done, Cody Sherritt. Awesome drive. Brilliant win on his side. Daniel Rowe, second place. I mean, as you said, that's going to send waves through everybody's strategies. Very much looking forward to next week to see what these guys can dish out again.
It's going to be an absolutely incredible run. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're out on Twitch under Metal State, go look it up and hit the follow button along with the subscribe. It's always fantastic. Big thank you to Larissa Hawk going and putting in a lot of chatter there, and also talking about pineapple on pizzas. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but
no,
that's some fighting words. But thank you very much for joining in. Go and show a bit of love to Metal State. Lots and lots of stuff going on. Whether you love racing, whether you love first-person shooters, or whether you like going and playing a bit of soccer, lots of competitions going on. And also head to their website. So if you're on Twitch, look up Metal State. And if you're out on the world of YouTube, look up raceface.pro. Hit the subscribe button along with a bell notification to let you know when we go live with some more racing that's happening throughout the year. And also chuck in a like for everything, ladies and gentlemen. It's well worth it. We're trying to really hit those milestones, but well done to all the drivers, well done to you guys, the spectators, and a big thank you to all the spectators for inviting us into your home, allowing us to have a glass of cool drink, sit down with some popcorn, and go and talk your ear off at the same time. But from myself, Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the box, Yanaman Price. Yanaman, that's absolutely awesome. Can't wait for round number 5. Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night, everyone.